Filing your taxes, that is complicated enough, but next month it's about to get a whole lot worse. That's because of all the new rules with Obamacare. Even some tax professionals are saying they're having a hard time keeping up with the changes, and one of the reasons is the lousy guidance from the IRS. With us now, Grover Norquist, the president of Americans for Tax Reform. Grover, welcome back to the show. We have you here by telephone today. I have to ask you, a story in Politico about the war going on behind closed doors between the IRS and taxpayers over just how Americans can tell the IRS whether or not they have health care coverage and what is going to be the legal proof that they do. The IRS not answering those questions. Why?
Well, they're caught between what the taxpayers need and what the Obama administration wants on record. The very complicated Obamacare includes as one of its complicated pieces that if you don't have insurance for one qualified insurance, not insurance that you might
not any
like
old insurance plan.
Yeah, Obama-approved insurance, which is the more expensive kind and more limited. If you don't have that for 1 month, any month during the year, you need to hand out paperwork to the IRS. It could be dozen-plus pages that you have to fill out explaining why. And there's excuses that they'll buy, and there are ones that you don't. CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, which bent over backwards to say Obamacare worked and wouldn't cause any problems, they admit that 4 million Americans will eventually have to pay a tax, a penalty, a fee, a fine for not having insurance during the year. But 30 million people are going to have to prove they're not part of the 4 million. You have to fill out paperwork when you ask the IRS what that looks like.
Let me slow you down here for just a second because you're packing a ton in here. One of the details, and this is what I find with this administration so often, they're great at theory, but when it comes down to street level, trying to implement something, they have no idea how to do it. It always goes awry, and one of the big things that they have not thought through is, as you just said, some 30 million Americans will be without coverage at some point in the year. So how are they going to file their taxes and tell the government that it just makes no sense to me? How is this going to work?
Well, they're very good at imagining unicorns. They're just very good at designing them. And the problem is some things can't be designed. You can't do a one-size-fits-all insurance plan for 300 million Americans because we're all different. That's why it's a good idea to have many insurance companies, not one government.
Okay. I want you to respond to what the IRS spokesman said about this. Bruce Friedland said, tax preparers should follow their normal due diligence in determining if their client has appropriate health coverage. What does that mean?
Means you're on your own, sucker. I mean, look, the IRS doesn't want to tell people. By the way, even if the IRS tells you, if you ask them a question and you fill out your tax reform the way the IRS person on the other end of the phone told you to, that is no defense if later they decide they don't like what you did. This is not on Obamacare. This is on any IRS question. So look, if the IRS leveled with you and said, here's how many questions you have to answer and here's what you have to do, there'd be a mini revolt. My guess is the administration will come in a few weeks or a few months and say, tell you what, you're all part, amnesty for everybody.
Wow.
Because they're not going to need 30 million people very irritated at them, and 4 million people particularly irritated at them. It's going to take most of this year to figure out whether you're in the 30 or the 4.
Grover, this is how they're going to pay for Obamacare in part. So if they say, amnesty, everybody, how are they going to pay for the darn thing?
They borrow it from the Chinese.
So just a note here, Grover, that I want to make to you here. So we tried to find Form 8965, which is the form that you're going to have to fill out. Not available.
This is the one they're telling all the tax preparers to
yes,
to deal with. Well, they don't like tax preparers, so this may be part of screwing the tax preparers and then going, you know what, the IRS will do everybody's taxes for you, the way they do in France, where the government sends you a tax.
I can't think of anything worse.
You fill the tax out. This is a big, big project that they'll have. They're trying to do it in several states. They're trying to do it at the national level. They think they're going to save everyone a lot of time and energy by doing your taxes for you. Imagine once the government's done your taxes for you, the IRS sends you a bill, and you think they did it wrong. Talk about fighting City Hall. How'd you like to fire the IRS? Take the IRS.
Give the prison guard the keys.